welcome to Alive to Thrive, Occupational Therapy. I am Lauren Lyman.
And I'm Tracy Schnabel.
And today we are talking about the U.S. healthcare system, past, present, and future. So a little bit about us. We are two occupational therapists who noticed a gap in healthcare that's not being addressed right now. Our goal is to share as much information as possible with our audience related to health and wellness, rehabilitation and recovery, since we are OTs, growth and development, and living a non-toxic lifestyle to improve your overall health. So don't fall into the hype that autoimmune disorders and chronic diseases are a normal part of life. Common and normal are not synonymous. And don't believe that growing old means growing impaired. So together, let's bridge this gap and empower ourselves to reclaim our health.
Yep. Our purpose. We're here to present information we've researched as well as questions and commentary we have based on this research. Our goal is to provide information to empower our audience to ask their own questions and form their own conclusions. We understand how overwhelming and sometimes emotionally difficult new information can be when it conflicts with previously held beliefs. Our goal is to compassionately educate our viewers for the betterment of their lives and the lives of their loved ones. We're simply a stepping stone on your journey to truth. Okay, and the legal disclaimer. This is a lot. All claims made on our podcast, videos, and websites are for informational purposes only. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We recommend contacting the appropriate medical professional for advisement on specific medical concerns. No warranties or representations are given in regard to any information presented, and we are not responsible for any injury or loss suffered from any viewing parties. Proceed at your own risk. Links provided are for informational purposes. However, we do not take responsibility for any additional information that these websites and companies may provide regarding health. If you think you have a medical emergency, please call 911 and don't sue us. Okay, so John chapter 8, verse 32. Yep, I put Jesus in here, and I'm proud of it. Okay, so you truly are my disciples if you remain faithful to my teachings, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. So in my personal journey to truth, I looked at like a lot of philosophers like Aristotle and Plato. I looked at scientific research, and I also looked at biblical teachings. And I found that the more you research, the more you find that the truth has been hidden, and knowledge is power, especially in healthcare, and we want to just give you that knowledge.
So we are going to take a look at past approaches to healthcare. Now we are going to do kind of a brief overview of all these different topics. There's a lot more detail involved in it, but we wanted to keep it kind of short. So we are going to do future presentations on each of these different approaches to healthcare. So stay tuned for future videos. So the first one is herbalism. So this is using nature to assist the body in healing itself. So with herbalism, it's actually been around. We predict that it's been around over 200,000 years, but the first time we've seen it written on clay tablets was in 3000 BC in Mesopotamia. 1500 BC, Egyptians wrote on papyrus. They wrote 850 herbal medicines, and the Chinese emperor also wrote something on how many herbs that they use to treat common conditions. So it's been around a really long time. 460 BC, Hippocrates, who we consider to be the father of modern day medicine, he was the first guy to say, hey, I think that illness is caused by more of a biological problem, a physiological problem, rather than a superstition or the gods punishing people. So we really consider him to be the first person who really looks at healthcare in the way that we do. And he actually said, let your foods be your medicines and your medicines be your food. So he thought being well and eating well would keep you well. So in the 15th to 17th century, there was a huge boom in herbalism, and even as other methods of healthcare came to be, they still used herbalism in conjunction with those things, like bloodletting and using mercury and purging and things that were kind of dangerous. They still incorporated that herbalism. Until 1904, when the American Medical Association formed the Council on Medical Education. And they basically said, if your school doesn't comply with allopathic medicine is our current U.S. medical system. It basically means different suffering. So someone's suffering from something, and then you give them basically something that will do just the opposite. High blood pressure, bring their blood pressure down. That's our allopathic medicine. So Schools that didn't comply with these standards and just teach allopathic medicine, they were threatened to be discredited. So basically, they forced schools to change to allopathic medicine exclusively, and herbalism is not really practiced here formally. And then using electricity to heal the body. So 2500 BC, Romans were actually using electric fish to manage people's symptoms. In 63 AD, Greeks were using electric eels and rays to treat things like pain, gout, migraines, epilepsy. And then throughout the 17 and 1800s, there were a lot of electrical experiments. Frankenstein, I'm sure you've all heard of that. He was an electrical experiment. They literally put a charge on his muscle. They ran electricity into his muscle, and it elicited a contraction. I'm alive. No, muscles just work off of electricity. And by the 1850s, hospitals had electrical departments everywhere, and they were using electricity to manage pain. One of the queens in England actually used electrical stimulation to manage pains during childbirth, and she was kind of the front person to say, hey, I don't want to have pain while giving birth. And then again, 1900s come around, pharmaceuticals come around, and then other than occupational therapy and physical therapy and maybe some rehab doctors, we're not really using electricity anymore.
Okay, so basically to summarize what she just said, so there was these herbal, natural ways and electricity that was really effective, and then later on when the pharmaceutical industry took over, those ways got discounted. So that's what we're trying to get at. So we're going to give you a background about the natural medicines, homeopathic being one of it. Homeo means like, pathia also means disease, feeling, emotion. It was founded by Samuel Hahnemann in Germany in the 1800s. He was an allopathic doctor that used the bloodletting, purging, meaning like throwing up, and mercury as medicine, but he wanted to practice a less harmful way to treat his patients because he thought that was too harmful to them, so he wanted to have a new way to treat. So he had an accidental discovery that tree bark produced symptoms in healthy people similar to people that had malaria. And he thought, well, what if I gave the tree bark to the person that had malaria? Would it stimulate their immune response? And it actually did. But he diluted it to like such a degree that like it wasn't very harmful to them when they took it. And they also said that they did succession where they like kind of shake up the particles, and they think that it released some kind of energy that also helped with healing, but they weren't able to prove that. So again, I don't want to go on a tangent, sorry, Lord, but you know, you guys have heard of like the atomic bomb, obviously, and that like the atom has so much power just in one atom. So this is the idea that, you know, just a very small particle, when it succeeded, could actually have a huge effect on the body without causing harm to the patient. So he had students that formed schools in the United States in the early 1900s, but we see a decline in the mid-20th century, even though homeopathic medicine was being spread like all over the place, Europe, South America, all over, but in the United States it declined. Why? We'll tell you. Okay.
So osteopathic medicine, this is actually one that is still around today, and it's growing in popularity, but it's taken a long time for it to start growing. So Andrew Taylor Still was a surgeon during the Civil War, and he too was like, I think that what we're doing is too dangerous. Like we're purging, we're having people, we're bloodletting. This is not safe for people. This mercury isn't safe for people. So he developed the concept of osteopathic medicine. So basically his idea was that when everything in the body is aligned and functioning properly, when your musculoskeletal system is functioning properly, everything just works. And your body, when it encounters a virus or an infection or something, can heal itself. So he actually pioneered the term wellness. So we're not looking at health as the absence of disease. We're not looking at, okay, now you're sick, what can we do for you? But how can we maintain your wellness so that you don't get sick? Or when you do get sick, your body can handle it on its own. So he looked at the whole body to treat a specific illness, to treat the patient, not the disease. So patient-centered care, which we are finally getting back to. But, you know, you'll still see a lot of doctors that look at you as a diagnosis. And you're so much more than a diagnosis because what's causing your diagnosis? And that's what he looked at. So osteopathic medicine opened up actually in Missouri for the first time in the late 1800s.
Okay, so naturopathic medicine, it's also based off this idea that the body has an innate ability to heal itself. So if you get a cut, as long as you keep it away from bacteria, your body will heal without a lot of outside help. So it's just this idea, and it was founded by Dr. Benedict Lust in the United States. They practice natural methods of healing like botanicals, homeopathy, manual methods that she was talking about, lifestyle coaching, and nutritional methods. So I actually knew a naturopathic doctor, and I've been to them as well, and they will spend at least a minimum of an hour with you compared to the doctors that we're familiar with, in and out in 15 minutes. One time at Loyola when I was there, she was like, yeah, the doctor said to me, I have to get my elderly patients in and out in 15 minutes. That's near impossible. Sorry, I won't go on too much of a tangent here. But anyway, so it's a big difference in philosophy and approach to care. And again, we see naturopathic medicine decline in the mid-20th century, even though it was a very good method of treatment. And this is with when we started to learn about antibiotics and surgical interventions. They're like, oh, we don't need these old things anymore. Oh, yeah, the chiropractor. Okay, sorry, Lauren. So this is also the idea when the body is properly aligned, the body can heal itself. So the Greek word char means hand and praktos, done. So the idea of healing by the hands. It was founded by Dr. Daniel Palmer. And it's really interesting, the story. It was this janitor, he was deaf for 17 years, and none of the allopathic doctors, the traditional doctors, could treat him for it. And he swore, he was like, I had a popping in my neck, and then I couldn't hear. So Dr. Palmer thought about it, and he thought, well, maybe if I adjusted his vertebral alignment, maybe it would allow conduction to the auditory nerve, and he'd be alleviated of this problem. So he did a crude adjustment at around C2, where the auditory nerve is, and the cervical vertebra, the second one. And the guy started to be able to hear again. And that's how chiropractic medicine started. So it's pretty cool. They're experts on the musculoskeletal system. And a lot of problems people have with their back is because of pressure, on the nerve. So they're very helpful for this. And by 1913, 39 states had passed the law for chiropractors to be legalized in the U.S., and they were offering solutions that traditional medicine couldn't. And by the 1940s, they were attacked for quackery because they were taking away clients from the allopathic doctors. And this is just, you could look up our YouTube channel and see this. It's just a chart of all the nerves that come off of the spine and what they're all connected with, like the organs and different things in the body. It's all interconnected.
So we talked about a lot of different approaches to healthcare, so we want to take a step back and kind of compare, contrast, just to summarize a little bit. So homeopathic medicine, that's the concept of similar suffering. So if you give someone a little bit of the medicine that causes symptoms, but diluted so much that it won't elicit any symptoms, it'll actually help to overcome whatever disease they're fighting. So again, they use the succession, the process of shaking, and it's more of a medication you take as needed, as prescribed, where herbs are literally just either dry extracts or essential oils taken directly from the plant. And these are things that people use sometimes on a daily basis, herbal teas. Maybe you diffuse some essential oils in your home, lavender lotion before bed to help you sleep, things like that. So the herbs are a little more common and used more often on a daily basis. And homeopathic medicine is more like creams, pellets, tablets that you take for a specific symptom that you're having. Both of these have the idea that the body can heal itself with just a little bit of outside support. And then when we're looking at the doctors or your medical providers, doctor of osteopathic medicine, they're more focused on pharmacology because their education is literally that of an MD, a medical doctor, who is more common in the United States, plus 500 to 600 additional hours of schooling in manual manipulation, visceral manipulation, moving your organs, soft tissue mobilization, different methods so that they can hands-on feel what's going on with you, diagnose your problem. My doctor of osteopathic medicine diagnosed my hernia, didn't need any exams, didn't need any x-rays, none of that a regular MD may have sent me for x-rays. Everyone was expecting me to go for an ultrasound, and she just felt, and she said, well, yeah, you have a hernia, because you can use your hands to diagnose. That's really how doctors started, before all of our fancy equipment that we rely on came to be. And then you have your naturopathic doctor, where they have a heavier focus on nutrition, so not so much the pharmacology. More botanical training, holistic remedies, and they can only practice in 17 states, whereas a doctor of osteopathic medicine is licensed in all of the states. These are both fully licensed physicians, where a chiropractor, they realign the spine, may give you some exercises to prevent your spine from reverting back to that poor posture that's causing your symptoms, but they are not a medical doctor. All three doctors have the idea that the body can heal itself with just a little bit of outside help, and manual adjustment is important. You want your body to be aligned, your musculoskeletal system to be functioning properly for everything else to work. So Tracy, what happened?
Well, I'll tell you. So early in the 1900s, Rockefeller and Carnegie foundations were interested in creating a singular method for medical professional training. It wasn't truly altruistic. Today, the Rockefellers own 45% of the pharmaceutical industry. So they were thinking as business-minded. So there was a lot of corruption, coercion, and blackmail, Lauren. So what happened is there's the Flexner Report of 1910, and they were recommending that that the training be focused on chemical medical education and nothing else. So even though these other practices were working, they wanted to only focus on chemical intervention. So the Rockefellers started funding the colleges, a lot of their operating costs, and then they're like, hey, can we get on your boards, and just oversee, our money? And they had to say yes, right? Because a huge part of how they were functioning was because of their donations. So sure. So then they influenced the entire curriculum. And just another interesting and scary fact, in 1939, a drug trust was formed with the Rockefeller Empire and the German chemical company IG Farben, which is now known as Bayer. And they were doing drug experiments in concentration camps in Auschwitz. So they were testing their drugs in Germany during World War II on people that were victims of that. So they started eliminating the other approaches that we just talked about from schools. They threatened to discredit the schools if their curriculum didn't remove herbalism, homeopathy, and other forms of natural medicine. Don't mind the children's music in the background. And they discredited other approaches. Like you hear, like chiropractors are stigmatized now and called quacks. And a lot of my patients would be like, they would be like, sorry. Yeah. They would be like, but isn't the chiropractor a quack? And I said, well, no, if they're realigning your spine so that you don't have to have surgery, which is very risky, you could get paralyzed or you could get hurt trying to get up after you have surgery, with I know patients have had that problem.
Infections.
Or infections. It's a much less invasive way to help you. So anyways, there became a monopoly on the treatment. So now we had all these different approaches, right? Not this one size fits all to one size fits all, and actually more invasive than the previous approaches. So then comes the proliferation of big pharma.
So pharmaceutical industry takes over everything. All the previously utilized treatments, gone. And what are we left with? Well, in 1861, morphine was utilized during the Civil War. We have pain, morphine works. Great. Dependency. Not good. 1898, heroin was advertised as having no addictive properties. Mm-hmm. Wrong. We know that's wrong. That's a bunch of crap. 1914, Harrison Narcotics Act finally comes around and says, maybe we should make these prescription only. And then, obviously, we still have recreational drug use, but at least then it cut down on a lot of use as it was able to. 1924. So we're going from 1898 to 1924, where the U.S. finally says no more heroin. It's causing too much harm. That's how long it took. 1995, OxyContin comes around and again marketed as safe. Wrong again. Not safe. And in 2007, the federal government actually filed criminal charges against this pharmaceutical industry for advertising it as safe, and they had to pay over $600 million in criminal and civil fines. So finally, 3 years ago, we said, there's a lot of bad drugs going around here. Maybe we should print out some guidelines so these doctors aren't overprescribing drugs. So we did that. That's great for newcomers. We're providing more alternative treatment a little bit sometimes. But some doctors are just saying, I was giving you all this medicine for so long and now you're addicted, but I can't anymore. Okay, you're cut off. Bye. What am I supposed to do? I'm physically, not just psychologically, physically addicted to all these painkillers, and you're tossing me out on the street. So what do? They turn to street drugs because that's all that's left. And then we stigmatize them, which is really sad. So we have 150 years were wasted. While we had these safe and effective pain management solutions, they were tossed aside so that these two jerks could make money and profit off of us. So we all had to sacrifice our health, and we have to sacrifice our medical care provided in this country so that they could make money.
But what about the FDA? They're supposed to protect us, right? The Food and Drug Administration, the regulatory agency that's supposed to help make sure that our drugs and our food is safe. Aren't we protected by them? No. Next slide. Thank you. So in the early 1990s, the pharmaceutical industry began paying off the FDA as well. They started putting millions of dollars into speeding up the drug approval process. So technically there could be a drug that needed to have more testing, but they expedited the process and potentially sacrifice the consumer receiving that drug. And then when I did some research on the current acting commissioner of the FDA, his name is Norman Sharpless. He's actually a cancer drug developer. So the person that's supposed to be overseeing, the drug industry is actually getting is in the drug industry and getting monetary benefit. So that's a huge conflict of interest. So they're not going to be, in my opinion, looking out for the consumer if they're getting money off of the drug being pushed through the system. And that freaks me out. It should freak you out too.
Maybe they are. Maybe they are. Well, it would take a very, very ethical person to do that, though. And I mean, it's got to be tempting. You can make millions, or you can be a good person. I mean, money drives a lot of people, unfortunately, and it's a temptation.
Yeah.
So. Okay, but Tracy, doesn't the U.S. have like the best healthcare system in the world?
Wrong. Actually, we're last, like Bernie was saying, of all industrialized nations, we're last. So it's Australia, Canada, France, all these places that have socialized medicine actually are way ahead of us. So that's kind of startling, right? Because we've been told our whole life we have the best of everything. So yeah, these are our overall rankings, like care process, access, administrative efficiency, equity, and healthcare outcomes. And Lauren, could you make your point?
Yeah, so interestingly, okay, access, 11, we're like way down there. Administrative efficiency, 10, pretty far down. Equity, 11. Healthcare outcomes, 11. So our healthcare outcomes are poor. Yet our care process we rate as a 5. So this is kind of what we're saying here. We are healthcare providers. We're occupational therapists. We worked in the hospital. The care process is good. We're not saying doctors suck, nurses suck, everyone sucks. We're not saying that. There are people who do a really good job and do what they were taught to do. The problem is what they were taught to do is not leading to good healthcare outcomes. So they may have a great care process. We may be doing a really good job providing the care that we know how to provide, but we have blinders on. We're like horses with the blinders on. We need to open our eyes to all these different approaches in healthcare if we really want to improve our healthcare outcomes. And other countries are doing that. There are countries that literally head right for Eastern medicine, left for Western medicine. They have both. And we're just like, no, drugs. And as I said, 150 years of pain medicine really had detrimental effects. So what are these other medications doing to us? That'll be another presentation.
And we're never really educating our patients about why they're in the hospital in the first place. And I hear a lot of people in the ER, when I was there recently for a family member, the guy was asking the doctor, hey, like, why am I here? And the doctor's like, I don't know. He's like, so I'm spending all this money. My insurance is spending, and you don't even know how I got here or why? And he's like, no, couldn't give him an answer. So I would try to research with my patients why they were in the hospital and educate them on it.
Tracy used to stay at work till like 11 p.m.
Yeah. So I didn't have a life, but to me it was weird. Okay, so I think that we're in a healthcare crisis in the United States, and you will too after this slide. So 99,000 deaths per year were from hospital-acquired infections. That's including bladder infections, surgical site infections, pneumonia, and bloodstream infections acquired while a patient was in the hospital seeking treatment for something else. 1 in 25 hospitalized patients will be diagnosed with at least one infection caused solely by hospitalization. And actually, it's the third leading cause of U.S. deaths are hospital errors, 250,000 deaths per year. And that was by Johns Hopkins Medicine in 2016. And Dr. Pangattoni did a review of 337,000 studies that looked at medical errors and found that about 5% were preventable. And 49% of preventable injuries were due to drug-related problems. So probably like an over-prescription or a drug interaction or a misgiving of that drug, and that led to injury. Also, hospital-acquired infections accounted for 16% of injuries in that review. So life expectancy, that's a good projection a lot of times of how we're doing in health. And in the 1900s, we were at about 47 years. And in 2014, because of like public health measures, hand washing, we moved all the way up to 78.9 years. But in 2018, it was the first time where we started to go backwards, where the generation born after the previous was going to live not as long. And that's striking. And we're also behind other countries, industrialized nations, for life expectancy. So I'm just saying why. I'm just wondering, why is this happening? So we started to look at the causes of death between the 1900s and in 2017, the last I was able to find. And you would think in the 1900s to 2017 there would be a big difference, right? We're making all these medical innovations, we're so smart, we're so scientific, that there would be a totally different list. But in red here, heart disease, cancer, accidents, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, influenza, pneumonia. Sorry, I got to talk into the microphone. These were all the causes of death in the 1900s as well. We haven't made any improvement in it. So all these things as well are actually preventable. We know, stress is a leading cause of a lot of these things, diet, and we're still having this as a leading cause of death. And even more shockingly, could you hit me up?
Sorry, one more thing. The only ones that did improve, things like tuberculosis, diphtheria, things like that, those were things that antibiotics came out and fixed those things. So we developed a chemical that did cure those things, but now with all these chemicals we're developing, why can't we cure all of these other things? Can chemicals cure us, or are we electrical beings that cannot be cured with chemicals? And in 2 weeks we'll explain that a little bit more in one of our presentations.
The number 12 leading cause of death is suicide. When I looked at this broke my heart. Like, the number 12 leading cause of death is someone killing themselves. And I feel like we need to that's a mental health crisis. We need to do something about that. And I don't think that we are. I think the state of mental health in this country is very poor. I think we could do a lot more about it. And I think that that's really terrifying that it's number 12.
And I'd be interested to see how many of those people have chronic pain or some kind of chronic illness that's resulting in poor mental health. So, who truly cares about public health? You do. You're a consumer. You care about yourself, right? So depend on yourself. Investigate, educate yourself. If you were going to buy a new computer, a new PlayStation or Xbox, you would look into it, right? I was watching a Big Bang Theory. Sheldon was going crazy trying to figure out Xbox or PlayStation. What do I get? I don't know. Because we're not, maybe we like Xbox, we have an Xbox. Maybe you have a PlayStation because that's what suits you. You prefer that. Healthcare is the same. We are not all one person. We are not all the same. We are made up of tens of trillions, not millions, not billions, but trillions of bacteria. We can't have all the same bacteria. We are different people, and we should be treated differently in terms of healthcare. I am not a heart attack. I am not a stroke. I am not high blood pressure. I'm a person who has these symptoms, and you need to treat me, not my symptoms. So educate yourself. Be skeptical. We now know that everyone's feet are dipping in different waters and people are being influenced by money and things may get a little sketchy. Everyone agrees with that. Everyone's like, politicians are liars, politicians are liars. Oh, but they care about our health. Why? They're lying about everything else. So have you looked at a course schedule for medical school or sat in on one of their statistics courses? Some of them are great, some of them not so impressive. And remember, C's get degrees. So if you passed your stats class with a C, you can go off and be a doctor and recommend any kind of medicine based on research that you don't know how to read. And that's not everybody, but a lot of people are intimidated by research. And when you're researching, follow the money trail, because where there is money behind research, there is a little bit of fishiness. And when there's fishiness, it could be sacrificing your health. So do your research. Your health is important. Don't take a backseat in your healthcare plan. Tracy.
Okay, so a comparison of healthcare approaches. So Western medicine, we're not saying that we should completely throw it out. It's kind of a biomechanical model of practice. So you have a problem and then we treat that problem. So that's good if you need a cardiac catheterization. So if you have a blood clot, a heart attack that moves to your heart, you're going to need to have a catheterization to live. If you have a blood clot that travels to your brain, that's a stroke. They have TPA that breaks up the clot. If you get into a car accident and your skull is completely shattered and you need a skull reconstruction, we're good for that. Antibiotics for widespread infection. If you get a septic infection that spreads through your whole body, you're going to need antibiotics. Stabilization post-fracture. So if I fall, crack my wrist, I may need stabilization for it to heal properly. So that's what we're doing right. Okay. But natural-based therapies look for underlying causes of problems. So they get you in and out for that cardiac catheterization, but they're not telling you, why did this happen? How can we prevent it from happening again? If you have a stroke...
Sometimes they do, but in my experience, it's been handouts.
Yeah.
The social worker comes and gives you a packet. Here you go. Are you going to go home and read a whole packet of papers? Maybe not. But no one really sits down and says, hey, we need to change this X, Y, and Z in your life so this doesn't happen to you again.
Yeah. Or I believe the statistic for strokes is if you have one, you're 50% likely to have a second one if you don't change anything. So it's so crucial that you understand what contributed to it, what you can control, like diet, exercise, things like that, stress. But we're not educating our patients enough. And I think that should be a huge role in what we do to serve them.
Cancer is a big one. And cancer can be genetic, but gene expression, we're learning, is determined by the individual's lifestyle. So not saying you're causing your cancer, but you living by a cell tower, it increases your risk for cancer. You eating a lot of processed food or drinking a lot of sugary drinks, whatever. There are things that you're doing outside of diet too, though, that can cause cancer. Carrying your cell phone in your pocket. Men who carry cell phones in their front pocket are more likely to have testicular cancer from the radiation. Yeah. So that's great. Okay, we're doing chemo. That's good. If the chemo's working for you, if it gets rid of your cancer, great. But if you got cancer once, what are you doing to prevent it from coming back? We got rid of your cancer. You went through the throwing up, the hair loss, the nearly dying to get rid of your cancer, and now no one's teaching you how to keep it from coming back? To me, that's insane.
Yeah. So natural-based medicines are looking at treatment of acute problems and chronic problems, wellness maintenance and illness prevention. So you could go to them and say, I just, want to live a healthier life. And they'll spend an hour with you trying to figure out how you could do that to prevent something from happening. Something maybe you're afraid of getting in the future. They'll work with you on that. Where a regular doctor, if you go in there and be like, yeah, I just want to get healthier. How can I do that? They won't. Sorry. They won't really be that great at educating you.
Not necessarily. Let's not.
Well, I shouldn't stereotype. Yeah.
Generally, they're not. The training isn't there to say sit down with your patient, spend this time with your patient. It's 15 minutes. We got productivity.
And sorry, an example I was giving up to be more specific is when I went to Northwestern, I was telling them that I was feeling tired years ago, and I was thinking maybe it could be attributed to nutrition. And she told me nutrition has nothing to do with your energy levels. And I was like, what? You're fired. So that's just an example. And then I started to go to naturopathic doctors. So the fusion of the two, in our opinion, would be the best practice to prevent poor health, address emergent health complications, and determine the root cause, then fix that problem as well. This could lead to an entirely reformed healthcare industry, and the only population that would not benefit is big pharma. So if people are not chronically ill, who will pay for the pharmaceuticals? We don't really care. So holistic medicine is becoming more common. We're seeing hospitals starting to kind of get on board. Sorry, this is kind of like doomsday, but here's the hope. Hospitals are starting to get on board with alternative practices and energy medicine practices, things like acupuncture, Reiki, like energy healing to help with blood flow and energy. Osteopathic medicine and naturopathic medicine are growing as well, that we mentioned earlier. They're getting more accreditation for naturopaths. A focus is more on prevention, not like what we want it to be, but it's shifting instead of symptom management and wellness, instead of the absence of the disease process. So we're looking at how the patient can control their own health and educating them how to do that. Because physician actually used to mean teacher, so they're supposed to be teaching you what's wrong and how to fix it. But we moved away from that and just, you're a number, and prescribe you meds and get you out. That's not right. So we're looking now to do addressing physical, but spiritual and mental health concerns all in one. We believe that this would be ideal. And occupational therapy has persisted through the changes. Occupational therapy focuses on function of the body in its entirety and integration of all the different systems that make up you, not just one system, the chemical system.
So the U.S. is expanding its horizons. There is hope for us yet. Homeopathic and herbal medicine is becoming more popular. If you go to a health food store, some grocery stores are starting to sell homeopathic medicine. Essential oils are getting really big. A lot of essential oils are replacing synthetic candles, which I think is great. And we're seeing more health food stores and more people interested in them. Chiropractic care is, for the most part, covered by insurance, which is great. You get a certain amount of visits every year to keep you in line. Functional medicine, they're looking at the gut as the source of health and illness, which is, unlike Tracy's dietitian or whoever you saw.
Doctor.
It's a newer concept that the gut is actually considered our second brain. A newer concept to us because Hippocrates was saying it a long time ago. But we kind of ditched that, and now we're coming back to it and saying like, hey, guess what we found out? But really, we're just reinventing the wheel. So the newer medicine in the United States is called functional medicine, and I highly recommend everybody get yourself a functional medicine doctor. They identify the root cause of disease by looking at your genetics, they look at your genome, and they look at your epigenetics. So basically, these are the genes you're given, but it's not like I have the cancer gene, I'm doomed. I have the dementia gene, I'm doomed. And that's how we're taught, basically. You know, you in 7th grade, you do your little charts. My mom had blue eyes, my dad had brown eyes, and then I'm this percent likely to have... No, you're not. That's not true. And your genes are actually expressed based on your diet and your lifestyle.
That's right, friends.
So, if you have bad family genes, you are not doomed, unless, you know, you are really not interested in living a healthy lifestyle, which, hey, to each his own. But this is kind of the way that they look at things. So, you may have one condition with a lot of different causes. So, let's say you have depression. Your depression could be caused by a low thyroid, vitamin D deficiency. You may be pre-diabetic. You're overusing antibiotics, which... One in 3 antibiotics in the United States is prescribed unnecessarily. So that's 1 in 3. That's a problem. Omega-3 deficiency. All of these factors could be leading to your depression. And what are they doing? They're giving you an antidepressant medication. It's not fixing the problem. It's just rewiring your brain. And now you're developing a chemical dependency on this medication. Or the reverse. You have one cause that's resulting in many symptoms, many conditions. So let's say you have inflammation. Inflammation can cause way more than what's on here. But depression, arthritis, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, what's causing your inflammation? Let's get rid of your inflammation and you may see your whole health picture change. So we need to remember that everything in the body is connected. Your physical health affects your mental health. Your mental health affects your physical health. Your gut and your brain literally communicate to one another. So you eat something and then your gut says like, hey, she ate a bunch of crap. This isn't working out. You need to send these chemicals down. We need to change the way that our body's working. Or if you ate a lot of good food, hey, that's good. Then you're telling the brain, okay, we're getting what we need. But your body is literally programmed to survive. That's why we've been around for so long. We want to survive. And there are a lot of theories that cancer is actually a form of survival. Something is going wrong in our bodies. We are doing damage to our bodies, whether intentionally or not. I mean, we don't want to damage our bodies, but not just saying you're eating bad, but maybe where you live, air pollution, water pollution. They put chlorine and fluoride in our water and we drink it. But all of those factors, cancer may be your way of trying to preserve your body because you're damaging it. So anyways, your gut and your brain communicate, and that's something we're going to get into in, I think, 3 presentations from now, 3 weeks from now. So what defines health? I wanted to make it really simple for you guys. So this is my definition of health, nothing formal, but to me, health is antioxidants minus free radicals. Antioxidants being the really good stuff that you get from fruits and vegetables, the thing that fights disease and makes you healthy. Free radicals being things like processed food, Wi-Fi, cell towers, radiation here, radiation there, microwaves. If your antioxidants are not superseding the amount of free radical exposure you have, it causes oxidative stress on the body, and then it opens you up to a whole slew of acute and chronic illness. So let's take a look at you. Here's you, smiley, happy person, very healthy. Subtract your processed food, bring your health down a little bit more, it's not good for you. Subtract your environmental toxins, your cell towers, your nasty water, your air pollution, things like that. Not good for you. Subtract your emotional stress because stress has such a huge impact on the body. So your health is going down a little bit, but hey, maybe you ate an apple today. Maybe you're eating a little healthy food. Maybe you're taking a whole food nutritional supplement or health product. I guess it's not really supplement. That brings your health up a little bit more. You're detoxifying. Your body does it naturally just by like drinking water and things like that, sweating. Or you could be doing things to aid your body in detoxing. Like, are you getting those 8 cups of water a day? Are you drinking half of your body weight in ounces? Coping strategies to manage stress. Sometimes we can't avoid it, although that's the best. But how are you managing your stress? How are you dealing with it? Are you meditating? Are you taking time to relax, to overcome the damage that the stress is causing on your body? So you're taking away on the top, you're adding on the bottom. What does this look like for you? Are you impressed with it? Are you worried? Are you a little confused? Like, what's going on? What am I supposed to do? This is not what I learned in school or from my doctor. But that's okay, because our entire podcast focuses on all of these issues. We are going to dive into all of this. We're here to help you discover what health and wellness mean and how to improve your health and wellness. Health is not the absence of a diagnosed disease. You may think you're healthy and you're not. What you do today affects the rest of your entire life, basically. So how can you make little steps, little changes today to improve your health overall? We care about you. We don't profit off of you being sick. So we want you to be better. So stay tuned and empower yourself to reclaim your health. And that's all we got for you. So thank you. We are going to ask that you like our video, you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you share the video, share it on your Facebook, on your personal page, email it, whatever. We have flyers. You can give flyers to people. And check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/Lauren and Tracy. We do tell you whenever we post a video on there. You can follow us on there if you don't like to follow on YouTube. And we want to get the word out, so change the world one person at a time.
Yeah.
If you can.
Yeah.
So we are actually going to open the floor up for questions. So let's shift gears. Where is my mouse? It's on the other screen. I hate when there's 2 screens. There we go. Okay. So we do have a live chat going right now. So if anyone has questions online, feel free to let us know now. We'll keep a lookout for the next couple minutes. Anybody in person have any questions for us? I know we went through a lot. And like I said, we're going to go into detail on a lot of these topics. Camille, you promised us a question.
Yeah.
I thought it was very good.
She said she thought it was very good.
All right.
I'm just looking to future podcasts with more detailed information.
She wants future podcasts with more details and information.
Action items.
So I have a question. I can talk loud if that would help.
I don't know, but you might want to come up here.
Come on down.
All right.
Dun, 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 dun.
Am I going to be famous?
Yes.
All right.
Have a seat in the chair.
Ah, okay. Hello. Why can't I see myself?
We're on a little bit of a delay. It's just internet things.
Ah, okay.
You'll come in a second.
All right. Because I look like Tracy right now.
Are you familiar with the Japanese study where they labeled water and then froze it?
That's what I put in our
Yes.
presentation.
Okay.
Yes, and you know what? Okay, which presentation? That's in 2
Electrical
weeks.
beings.
Humans as electrical beings. There's an amazing. You want to talk about it? You can talk about it. Give them a sneak peek.
Well, I was actually going to ask you a question.
Okay.
So you mentioned this concept that I had not heard before, which was called when you shake
Succession.
the succession.
Yeah.
So how do you compare that study to Succession? Like, could you essentially be programming water the same way they were programming water with intention or with the words? You know, so you
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
right.
Yeah.
So what are your
That was Tracy's study. You want to come up here and
yeah?
talk
Why
about it?
don't you take the feedback? That was my question.
Oh, that's interesting. So, now I'm
You
you.
repeat in layman's.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. That's what Steve tells me. He's like, don't talk like a jerk. Talk normal. Okay. So, so they did this really cool study where they said really positive things to the water, from what I'm remembering, and then negative things, and then they froze it and studied it under a microscope to see if actually any differences occurred in the crystalline structures, and then they had people rate it that didn't know whether it was the good group or the bad group. And they actually statistically found it was significant that the structures that were said kind things were more beautiful, and the ones that were said negative things were more disorganized, had more chaos and less symmetry. So our words actually and our intentions actually have an impact on our reality. So what he was saying is, possibly what the homeopath was doing possibly could be intention with the succession of the with the dilution and everything.
Or even the same,
Right?
the same programming process.
The same
that is
programming
so
process.
Instead of labeling one jar love,
Yeah.
by putting a fraction of a substance into the water and shaking it, you're essentially imprinting, not necessarily via intention, but via quantum entanglement.
Yeah.
We're talking quantum entanglement.
Yeah. We talk about this
Getting
later.
fancy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We do talk about that, yeah. In our 2 weeks, we'll post a video that does talk about that.
Have you seen the similar stuff where they do the same thing with the plant?
Plants.
Good-
We have that
too, yes.
We have that in, yeah. So they do the same thing to plants, and the plants that had negative things said to them died, and the ones that had positive things flourished. And I sent this to my friend Stephen Chella because they always think that I'm so foo-foo. And then they were like, oh my gosh, Crazy is a little right about something. So
We may have another friend that might want that study.
Yeah.
I hope you don't mind me talking about you. I had another friend that did this to his plants, and his not so open-minded friend thought he was nuts. So I guess we're crazy, but hey, if we're healthy, I'll be crazy and healthy.
And I've seen it done with food too. They
rice.
do it with food, and the same thing. The food that they talk nice
He's seen it
to,
done with food as well.
yeah.
and the stuff they talk bad to gets all moldy and stuff.
Yeah, and they've actually done studies on the interaction of animals, and we are an animal. Don't forget, we are an animal. We're not above the animals. They did a study between animals and plants, and it was crazy because we were meant to live in nature. We built these houses, that's great. We can stay inside when it's raining, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But we were meant to be outside because plants literally change their properties based on what we need. So animals and plants literally communicate, and plants give us what we need. That's why when we take all these synthetic supplements, it's like, here's your vitamin C, here's your vitamin A. That's great and all, but your body's like, what's this crap? Where's the rest? Your body doesn't recognize what food do you know that just has vitamin C or just has vitamin A? So your body takes a supplement and then bam, you get all these cravings because it's like, well, where's the rest of this? So people who take supplements may be actually craving more food because your body's like, this isn't the whole apple. Where's the rest of my apple? So we are definitely advocates of whole food nutrition, and nature, because nature knows what you need. Our brains are the size that they are because we overcame a virus that we were meant to have. So nature said, hey, for whatever reason, and I haven't looked into it that much, but nature said, you need to have bigger brains. You need to be smarter to survive, for your race to survive. So this virus that we encountered and overcame is actually in our DNA. So here we are thinking germs are bad, viruses are bad. We are part virus, and we are here and as smart as we are today because of a virus.
So we're trying to fight nature, but nature's trying to help us. So we're trying to say, let's get on board with nature and stop trying to fight it, essentially.
Right.
It's a good practice with the food we're ingesting now with antibiotics,
Yes.
steroids, and
Oh, there's-
hormones.
Yeah.
Is that good when we're ingesting that?
No.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Not at all. So,
Yeah, exactly.
They
Yeah.
pump a lot of our food with hormones because they think we need it. Folic acid is my biggest hatred here. So they put folic acid. Try to find a box of cereal that's not organic that doesn't have folic acid in it, because in the 80s they said everyone's getting spina bifida, we need folic acid. So everyone started taking folic acid, and now everyone's getting all these other midline deformities, like my son, tongue and a lip tie, that cause a whole spiral of things that we're still dealing with. You can check out my other video on that. But folic acid is synthetic. So yeah, you may be synthetically helping one, and this is our whole point. With your synthetic drug, you may be helping one thing, but how many other systems are you hurting, and what other problems are you causing? By fixing one problem, you're causing another. How many times have you seen someone be on a medication and then, oh, you need this medication to resolve your symptoms of this medication, but then, oh, you need this one so you don't throw up from this one. It's like, oh my God, you started with one and now you're at 5. And, times however many medications you need. So all these synthetic supplements are really hurting us. And yes, in the immediate, you're about to have a heart attack, sure, take it. You don't want to die. But long term, is this really good for you? And I don't think it is.
What was the quote from Dr. Sebi? He was saying that, like, a society that refuses to use nature to cure its diseases and instead uses chemicals and refuses to acknapplage the hidden
he
truths
said
in
that
nature.
I don't know if this was him, but you can't fix an electrical being with a chemical. It's apples and oranges, they don't jive. So if you're looking for a cure, you won't find it with chemicals, because we're electrical beings. We're electrical bodies that use chemicals, but overall our foundation is electricity.
So how we're approaching health is kind of insane, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
There are, like Tracy was saying, there are places for it. If I have a fracture, yeah. I'm going to the ER. If I get in a car accident, please take me to the ER. Don't let me die here. But if I have a chronic issue, I'm not going to go to the doctor. I had some stomach issues a while back. I went to a gastrointestinal doctor, and he said, you probably have IBS. But here's a generic sheet, and here's a diet for you. Didn't work, because I don't have IBS. And once I changed my diet, I've found things that work for me and things that don't work for me. But we put a label on problems that the food that we feed ourselves is causing.
Yeah.
So
And I want to talk about something else, but I
Okay.
think that I'm getting on a tangent, so I think I'll just stop myself.
do we have any other questions or comments, or like if you want to see a certain video in the future, we're happy to take suggestions.
I'm excited to see what creative things that you come up with next.
We have a list of over 50 things. So constantly, it'll be in the middle of the night, I'm about to fall asleep, and I'm like, ooh, and I add something to my phone, like, I want to talk about this. So we do have a lot of topics. This is a really long video. We're going to try to keep them under a half hour, because I know this is like,
Attention spans.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we're going to do maybe...
You guys are doing great. Especially Briella. I'm so impressed.
We are
my
tangential
gosh.
people, so we're going to try to
Yeah.
rein ourselves in, but most of our videos we'll try to keep under 30 minutes. Some of them maybe 10 minutes, especially the non-toxic lifestyle. You're using this, you should use this instead. Bam. So,
But yes, thank you for coming.
thank you everybody. Thank you to our live audience.
Thank you.
Thank you for whoever
Thank
joined
you.
us live on the computer, and then please share. This video will be saved, So share with your friends. Check out our page. Please subscribe, like our video, subscribe to our channel, share the videos, and we look forward to presenting to you again.
Yeah.
And we'll be releasing a new video every Tuesday morning at 4 a.m. So if you're an early riser, if you got to get to the city by 6 o'clock, you can listen to our video on the way to work on Tuesday or any day of the week. So thank you, and we are wishing you physical, emotional, and spiritual health and wellness, guys. Take care.
Good night. And we did it in under an hour.
We did.
Our goal was a half hour.
How
Huh?
long did it go?
It's about 55 minutes.